Okay, hi everyone, so I'm Smithy Q, and we're now here in the fourth game of the Annotated Game section of my course, Smithy's Opening Fundamentals. And before we dive into the game, I think it'll be useful to do a small tangent to discuss space in chess. I talk about time a lot in my course, talk about material, but I don't really talk about space. What is it? So really, space, and I think the best illustration is to look at the opening that gives white the most space. This is called the four pawns attack. A very creative name. Uh, and space is essentially all the squares behind your pawns. And so when you look at this, this is all the space white has. White has advanced pawns, and so white has gained this amount of space. Contrast that with black. Black has only moved one pawn so far, and so black really has only this one square extra. Now, in addition, our pawns, they also take away squares from our opponent. So we could imagine, maybe I can color them red, there we go. Not that square. Let's see if I can, not that square either. Aha, there we go, I did that properly. So the red squares are where the white pawns are taking away space from the opponent, and the green pawns are the extra space, the extra squares that white now has access to. And also, so when we advance pawns, we gain space. And when we exchange pawns, we tend to gain space. For example, after here, take, take. Without this f pawn here, now the f file is completely open. And also this bishop now. Before it was stuck here, now it's got the full diagonal. It's the same thing for black. Before, the queen only had one square to go to. But now, because the d pawn is exchanged, the queen is actually looking at d4. So when you advance pawns, when you exchange pawns, you gain space. And as modern engines have shown, space is extraordinarily powerful. Um, it's arguably just as strong as material and just as important as time. So it's critical. That said, we know in the opening, time is everything. It's not about winning material. It's not about gaining space. It's about time. And I think something really interesting happens after knight c6. If you look at the computer evaluation, it says this position, this whole opening, this variation is one of the best that white can do against the Alekhine defense. It's probably the strongest objectively. But if you look at the stats, Lichess Blitz, Rapid, Classical, everything except Bullet, black wins more than white. Much more, 56 to 39. Why? I think we can tell already. Black already has three pieces developed. Okay, you could argue the queen isn't developed, but the queen is active, and already there's a threat. White has no development. Absolutely nothing. And it's at the point where if white isn't very careful, he can get in trouble. For instance, the most played move here in this position is knight f3, and that already throws away white's advantage. Let's look at the most common moves now. Bishop e3, e6, and now black can do an interesting tactical operation. Take on f3. We see the problem here. If you want to take back with the bishop, but now we're going to lose the pawn. See, this is the disadvantage. When you are moving pawns, yes, you're gaining space, but you have to be able to protect those pawns. If you can't, then you just lose it. You're just down material, and white is terrible here. So if you can't take back with the bishop, you got to take back with the pawn. But now that allows this check, oh, this is really uncomfortable. Okay, we'll block with the bishop. Queen comes in here, and black is scoring 70% in this position. Let's look at the most common moves again. Knight c3, and we're going to castle. Look at the problem. Black has almost all active pieces. This bishop can come on out, do the pin, and white is struggling to hang on. White doesn't have a space advantage. It's actually quite the contrary. Black is targeting white's center precisely because black was prioritizing time, white was prioritizing space, and wasn't accurate enough. The most interesting move, I think, is knight e4, because this is going to, again, help us explore the next game we're going to look at. Here, one of the most common things that you can do against the space advantage or against the big wall of pawns is to sacrifice something. Because if you can do that and if it works, then, well, there is no space advantage anymore. And all that time, all those moves that white spent using those pawns, well, it's completely gone, erased off the board. And here, the best move is knight takes d4, bishop takes d4. We can throw in a check, and now white's in a real pickle. If you block with the knight, well, that allows the rook to come in because now the queen is already on d4, so that's not very good. We can't block with the bishop because we lose the queen with check. There's no time to take this queen. And so the only move is to move our king. We can't castle. And now black's going to play c5. So black is winning back his piece. He's up material. White's king is never going to be safe. Black is completely winning in this position. So we see the power there is that black was focused on time. White was focusing on space. And black was able to take advantage of white's inaccuracies in development afterwards, sacrifice something, open the position up, and um, reach a completely winning position by move 15. So that's pretty darn good. What does this teach us? Sort of, if I were to give you sort of, again, a general heuristic, a rule of thumb, it's gaining space is good. Gaining space is really good, but time is the most important thing. And so if you're equal in time or you're ahead in time, then sure, gain space. Just like if you're ahead in time, sure, go win material. That's excellent. But if you're behind in time, you probably shouldn't be gaining space, just like you probably shouldn't be trying to go grab some pawns. Let's see how that works in this game. So we're following a game from Morphy, so we always know that's going to be a good one. He's playing black, and here we go. We have the French defense, and white plays e5. What do we think of this? So white's gaining space, and development's equal. Neither side has any development, so this is a fine move. This is a good move from white. c5, attacking the pawn, defending the pawn. Develops a piece, starts pressure in the center, makes perfect sense. Now f4, gaining lots of space. This is a really popular move. It's the third most popular move online. What do we think of this one? Well, hopefully my last heuristic is helping, is that this is, yes, it is getting space, but it's one piece developed to 0, and it's black's turn, right? So now we've got lots of pressure here against d4. Okay, white develops. Good job, white. Bishop d7. Now what? White plays a3 with the idea of then playing b4. This is a really common idea in the French. The idea here is that this queen is staring at b2. And so normally what white would want to do is something like bishop goes to e3 to defend the pawn. But of course, that just drops this pawn. So what white does is white plays a3 and b4, so that way he can then move this bishop. That's the idea. But do we see the problem here? Yes, it's a lot of unnecessary pawn moves in the opening. And yes, we are gaining space with it, but time's the most important thing. We exchange, brings the rook over, and after bishop goes to b2, sure, the bishop's defending. We see how everything is attacking this pawn. This is the weakest pawn on the board. And sure, white is sort of just hanging on. White has to be very careful. White ends up playing queen goes to d3. And already, your tactical alarm bell should be ringing off because white has wasted time, made a lot of unnecessary pawn moves, and black is near fully developed. We only have to figure out what to do with this bishop. Otherwise, knight's on the best square, knight's on the best square, bishop's on the best square can be. Even our rook is potentially active. And we know that white has been playing great. And so there probably, or there might be, we should be looking for tactics. And this is Morphy. Of course, Morphy finds tactics. Bishop takes b4. And this hopefully doesn't come out of the blue. Hopefully we can understand the thought process here. Just like the Alekhine game is when your opponent has made a lot of pawn moves. If we can sacrifice something, then we are going to, and it works, then amazing. And even if it doesn't, look at this. Bishop takes, pawn takes, knight takes. That's 2 pawns for a piece. And we're gaining time. Queen has to move, backing up. And now the moves practically play themselves. Rook goes to c2, hits the queen, hits the bishop. We're going to win our piece right back. Queen moves, knight jumps in. It turns out the queen's actually trapped. We don't even have to win the bishop. We can go after a bigger prize. Do we see how fast that came in? I think that makes sense because black was focusing on time and then was able to do a really nice, clean sacrifice to work. And what's interesting is that this works even if white doesn't play queen goes to d3. So if white were to, for example, just play bishop e2, black could try the same thing. It's not as strong, but let's watch. Bishop takes, and then takes, knight takes. What's the threat? Our threat is to move this knight with check, picking up the rook. Remember how our rook is there? And even if not, this knight could just move, and that's going to expose a discovered attack against this bishop. White has to be very careful here. And I know a lot of people, certainly when I was younger, I was always adverse to sacrificing early on. I didn't like sacrificing very much, especially a piece. But if you think about it, it's that one bishop for two pawns. And we know a bishop's worth three. So really, we're only sacrificing one pawn. And in exchange, all of our pieces are active. Even this bishop might be able to come alive over here. And conversely, white is barely hanging on. For example, the most natural move is the castle, get your king safe. After knight c2, again, we're exposing the attack on the rook and the bishop. We try and do this. Nope, queen's going to come in. Rook has to move. Um, White is losing material, so black is going to win back his material with a better position with the attack. Why this happened? It happened because white was focusing too much on space, on making those pawn moves, and black was focusing on time. Um, and then notice the chance to sacrifice. And so that's really what I want you to take away from this game. I guess those two things is one, space is good, but you want to be at least even in time, at least even in development before you're making a whole bunch of space moves. Really focus on time, especially in the opening. And then two, of course, when you have that lead in time, look at ways to sacrifice. Maybe it's a piece for two pawns. Maybe just give up a pawn. Because again, opening up those lines is going to let your pieces just jump in. So this was a fun one. Hopefully that helped. Hopefully that was again interesting. Let me know. Otherwise, Smithy Q, and I'll see you in the next game. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.